Check this stat out, dude. And this is where the Airbnb haters should really get into this. Institutional investors control 40% of the U.S. single-family home rental homes. They will own, or they will control more than 49% by 2030.
If you're marketing to everybody, you're marketing to no one. Meaning, if you're always over-delivering, then the moment that you just deliver, you've actually under-delivered. And so sometimes over-delivering can be kind of tough. Yeah, I don't think you need to spend $1 million on an Airbnb. I really think that right now, you kind of have two levers to pull. I think you can pull lever one, which is amenities. And then you can pull lever two, which is extreme design. And then when you pull both of them, and you get extraordinary results.
Have you ever wondered why so many people hate Airbnb owners and why AI is taking over our entire world and taking our jobs? And most importantly, the people that hate Airbnb owners, why do they actually hate so much? Today, my friend Rob Abasolo and I are also discussing some really important topics that are going to keep you super intrigued from start to finish. A lot of these topics are super controversial. And hang with us today as we're going to be diving into some of these things and why you should probably check out this episode, because it's freaking good and you're going to love it. So hang with us as we discuss why AI is taking over and why people hate Airbnb landlords so much. Rob, you can just go ahead and take it, man. Since you're already like talking, I mean, just go for it.
Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to the Jesse Vasquez YouTube channel. Today we're going to be changing it up a bit. We may be talking mid-term rentals, short-term rentals, what's happening in the world of Airbnb and everything in between. I'm here with my good friend Jesse Vasquez, who is the host of today's podcast. Not that you would know because I've been talking this whole time, but I'm Rob Abasolo, in case you don't know who I am. If you've been living under a rock, you know, or if you've been living outside of the short-term rental world. Jesse, welcome to your show.
Welcome to my show. You know what? I'm going to start off with this. Rob and I were in San Diego, what was it, like a month and a half ago?
Yeah, month and a half ago.
And when people didn't know who Rob was, I was silently in the back going like, yes. I was like, yes, they didn't know you, Rob. And Rob was just like, yeah, it happens sometimes. And I was like, hey, do you guys know who Rob is? And they're like, who's Rob?
I'm like, I don't know. I do an Airbnb or two. Listen, I'm happy to be your wingman, your short-term rental wingman in the world. I was just there to make you look like a star and talk about how cool you are, because genuinely, you're the man when it comes to mid-term rentals in this space.
Dude, yeah, that was funny. I was like, the first time somebody was like, yeah, Rob, who's this guy, Rob? And I'm just like, how do you not know this dude? Like, he's literally in Bigger Pockets. Like, and they were also like, well, what is Bigger Pockets? And I'm like, yeah, this is the perfect person.
It is funny. I was at BPCon, I think in October, and there was a group of real estate investors that were asking me questions. And then one of the people, they were like the third in line. They're like, yeah, so what's your name? And then I was like, oh, Rob Abasolo. And they're like, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I do like real estate and content and podcasts. And then I could see like all of his friends. They were all like, dude, what do you know what you do? And I'm like, it's all good. Don't worry about it. And I left, and all of his friends were like, you blew it.
You blew it. You blew it. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. I don't know. I generally enjoyed that. So I'm sorry that. And you know what's cool about you is you were just like, yeah, you know, it is what it is. And
yeah, I'm nobody. That just all jokes aside. Before anyone's like, this guy thinks so much. No. I'm there to hang. I'll schmooze with everybody at the conference. You know that. I was talking to everybody. If anyone wants to talk, drink a beer, let's do it.
Yeah, for those that haven't watched Rob yet, you should. He's probably arguably one of the best speakers. In fact, your intro that you had at the summit, people were talking about afterwards, how you had that picture of me and you, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, we cropped this guy out, and it was Pace, because you didn't have any pictures with me and you in it. And it was just a genius, like 3-minute intro that I've watched people. I mean, I've watched a bunch of people speak, but that was like so meticulously put together. And the crazy thing is, when I asked you about this, dude, you're like, yeah, I was laying in bed the night before in the hotel room, and I was like, what can I put together? And this dude literally thought of this like 2 minutes, probably half asleep, and then freaking showed up and was like, killed it. And it was awesome.
I'm not going to lie. I was very sad afterwards, because I was like, man, that's the only picture I have with someone else in Pace Morby, because that intro would kill 100% of the time at every like real estate conference. But you get the special one of a kind intro. So
dude, that was so good. Yeah, speaking of seeing Rob, Rob's actually hosting Hostcon, which I happened to go to last year, and it was if you're into short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, real estate investing in general, definitely go there. He's gonna have Cody Sanchez. Who else are you having, Rob?
I'm gonna have Tarek El Moussa, Levi Kelly. Tarek is host of Flip or Flop back in the day on the HGTV. on the HGTV, the single one. And Levi Kelly, who I always say is the second best Airbnb YouTuber in the world, although he's got several more subscribers than me. We've got Bridget, sorry, I always forget it. Bridget Whitney. On Instagram, you might know her as It's Bridget Bitch. I've got
Freaking
Luke
awesome
Carl.
designer.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's my partner over at Funkit. And I've got Luke Carl, who is the spouse to Avery Carl. She spoke at Hostcon last year.
Yeah.
And Isaac French, I don't know if you know him, but he's this 27-year-old guy, built 7 cabins, sold them for $7 million, and became a multimillionaire at the age of like 25, 26
Freaking nuts.
in real estate. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm just over here, not making millions of dollars. So good for him.
Yeah, and I think
it's a pretty stacked lineup.
Dude, that lineup is fantastic. And yeah, if you guys are, what's the dates on that, Rob? What are the dates? I'm getting attacked by Nat.
Yeah, you're good.
Did you see that? I was like,
August 29th through the 31st. It's in Houston, Texas. It's Labor Day weekend. I gave people plenty of time, plenty of notice to plan around it. I know a lot of people typically take vacation, but hey, go vacation in Houston. Good food. It's great weather. Just kidding. It's very, very hot, but the AC has amazing AC. The hotel has amazing AC. It's going to be great. I hope everybody can go there. Go to hostcon.com and snag your tickets. We still have like pretty cheap tickets at the moment. Early bird special.
go get your freaking tickets, folks. That is an event you definitely don't want to miss. And Rob knows how to put them together. And his wife, who I happen to watch, and I think Ash is a badass. So make sure you let her know this. I was just telling Rob before this episode aired that I watched his wife walk around with the clipboard. She had a little microphone in her ear, looked like Tony Robbins, and she was just like, Alpha Red Team 7-9, Rob, we need to get you over here. And you just watch her along the event, just like ushering people along, telling Rob to shut up, Rob to go move to a different spot. And it's pretty cool to watch like your wife get involved in that, because my wife does not want anything to do with anything at all. She's like, you go do it. I'm not going to do anything at all. So to watch Rob's wife, I was super jealous that she was like putting all that stuff on. So Rob,
she's very she's also the person that kicks me off stage if I'm talking too long. Like I'll go into bits and do jokes or whatever, and I'll like just start talking, and I see her in the back of the room, and she's just like,
you know what I loved about being at Hostcon is Rob actually, have you guys ever watched when there's a sniper about to kill somebody, how a red dot goes in the middle of their head? That's actually what happened. Rob's wife will get a red dot, literally put it on Rob's head.
and she'll put it in my eyes. I'm like, ah.
No, that's awesome. So you guys definitely go there. I'm going to jump into this real quick because this is something that I feel is happening right now in the short-term rental industry. And I'm watching you. A lot of the trends that I've watched with short-term rentals, you've actually started them in a lot of ways. And
okay.
I'm saying this because I truthfully believe you have a heavy influence in that space. And I've always talked to people about how, once you start seeing trends go on, and this is something I think is happening just because Airbnb is, and I talked about this on Bigger Pockets episode, I feel like it's in like the 7th or 8th inning if we're talking about baseball.
Yeah.
It's kind of been around, it's done its thing. They've had Airbnb Lux, which was around in like 2015, 16, 17, 18. And they moved it to, they started getting into midterm rentals in 2020. That was pushed up when COVID hit, right? And now we're seeing a lot of people that have property. In fact, myself that has Airbnbs, they are short-term rentals. They're being, like, unless you have 27 pickleball courts in your backyard, or you have a rooftop slide that takes you down to a pickleball court that you can then slide down into a pool. Like
of money.
Those are the experiences that are allowing people to make way more freaking money. And you talked about this at the event that I had, and I really liked it. Do you want to break down what you see happening right now in the short-term rental space and why it's so important to forward think and look at amenities as being like a way to pull yourself out of our competitors?
Yeah, definitely. So I think we've had several phases, right? So back in the day, we had the original Airbnb. The actual name is like Air Mattress B&B. And I'm pretty sure that's the origin of it. If not, it's something that I've made up. But I think it is. And so that basically meant you had this house and you were just trying to make a few extra bucks. You tossed an air mattress in the living room, and like someone would pay you like $30 to stay there. I actually kind of, I miss those days a little bit, because that really was just like an extra $30. Are you kidding me? Those are like, my broker days. And I can very much say that those were the days where an extra $30, $100 here and there on Airbnb was awesome. And then we got into really, that's when I was like a guest, right? And that's really when it was more about connecting with the host, all that stuff. When I got into the game, it was around 2017. And that was really the era, what I call like the throw the mattress in an apartment era. Meaning if you just went to Craigslist free, like I did, or Let Go. I don't even know if that's still an app, but
Nah.
like it was basically okay, yeah. So it's like Facebook Marketplace, and you could basically cobble together, hey, this mattress and this bed frame and this IKEA art and this accent chair, none of it matches, but it doesn't matter because it's Airbnb, baby. And you would just like fill up this like room, and you'd be like, here it is, here's an Airbnb. Those to me were sort of like the golden Wild West days where you could do anything. Like you could, it doesn't matter. It could be the crappiest Airbnb, but people loved it for what it was, which was a cheap alternative to hotels. And so that's why I kind of like understand some of the sentiment around it, even though I think it's a little, I don't know, unfounded at times. We could talk about it in a little bit.
Yeah.
But that was kind of that phase. And then we got into this world where it started becoming about design in photography. And then all of a sudden, everybody, from 2017 to, I would say, 2021, 2022, right around the end of 2022, everyone started having nice design, nice Target furnishings, nice IKEA furnishings, World Market. Like I was big on World Market. And then everyone had these like kind of low level photographers that were charging like $150 to photograph your place. And that was kind of like the jam for a really long time. That was during COVID. And that was just like everybody was crushing it. And then we hear about the Airbnb bust. We hear all these rumors that hosts are losing money and that the economy is going, it's tanking, all that stuff, right? Well, what I think was really happening was I think travel booms were starting to calibrate. We were going back to normal times, so people weren't booking. We weren't printing money at the same rate. People didn't have gobs of money they could just spend on anything. And then Airbnb also became, you talk about kind of a sniper, right? It became less of a grenade of like random furnishings and like, hey, a grenade of random strategies that kind of worked. And it became a sniper's game where every single person that was super, super successful were like very real investors that were coming in and spending a ton of money on amenities and not just design, but like really high class design. They were using West Elms and Crate and Barrel and CB2 and all these really high end places. And they started adding amenities, and then they started bringing in these insane photographers that are like $400 to $1,000 per session. And then they started doing lifestyle photography. And when you compare all of those Airbnbs to everyone else, the other 98%, no one wants to book the other 98% because they suck in comparison. And so when you hear all the people that were talking about the Airbnb bust and blah, 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 it's all the people that kind of they started their Airbnb, they did well with it, but they never reinvested back into it. And they started getting crushed by all of the big dogs in the space, myself included. Like I was like, I'm not making as much money as I should be. But then as I started examining the comps, I'm like, hold on, there's still a lot of people making money here. I've got 2,800 students in host camp. A lot of them are making a lot of money. I'm like, the story that I'm hearing is not necessarily the story that I'm hearing or the story that I'm experiencing and I'm hearing firsthand isn't necessarily what I'm hearing in the news and in the media and all that stuff. And so I kind of just realized we're at this turning point where it is a bit of an amenities arm race compared to where we were. That doesn't mean that you have to have crazy pickleballs and all that stuff that you were talking about, but it does help. I just think that we're in a whole new era where you can't just mail it in anymore.
Yeah, I love that you said that because I remember when I started Airbnb in 2016, like 2017, somewhere right around there. Mm-hmm. Dude, we had 4 walls of TV and killed. Like literally, that's it. It was nothing fancy. And I watched it, and that property, the one that I had that was specific to that, still does well, but just like you, I had to go in and refurbish and refresh it to a certain degree. There's something about a professional operator that you can't dismiss, and I think one of the two things that are blending, and correct me if I'm wrong here, where who's the dude that Will Guardia, he wrote the book Hospitality, what is that hospitality book?
Unreasonable Hospitality?
Yeah, he talks about like service being black and white, where it's like you're expecting this level of service, and how hospitality becomes color. Like service is black and white, hospitality is color. And what you're saying right now is exactly that. You're providing a service, which is people are showing up, staying at the property, but then now you're now inviting people to have an experience, which if you blend that with hospitality is something that you can't, like, that's why people stay in places they're at. In fact, Rob's actually on vacation right now, showing up here in an Airbnb. It's pretty badass. Go to his YouTube channel. Nice. I'm pretty sure he's going to film something about it.
I will.
You are. So I think that experiential stay and having pickleball courts, like where people can get together, create those memories, those are the operators that are going to continue to stand out. am I on the right path with this? And we're seeing this happen with probably your host campers that have communities that they're building about with Airbnbs where they're turning into, dude, this Nat is like wanting to introduce
Just
himself.
eat it, man.
Do you want to go ahead and get on your buddy? Go ahead. Here's the mic right here. But I don't know, dude. I just feel like those experiential stays are the seventh inning of Airbnb. Like, and I continue to see this being even more fruitful for the people that are exactly what you just said, that are thoughtful behind design, that are maybe spending a little bit more money, that are putting amenities together that are going to make sense. And to this degree, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like an amenities race now. If you're competing with people, it's like, how many amenities do I have that are going to compete with the Robs that have 3 pickleball courts? Do I need 4 pickleball courts? What do I need to do? So can you kind of break that down when we see, you talked about this at the event too. I'm going all over the place, but hang with me.
No. It's all cohesive.
Hang with me here. You talked about if you're marketing to everyone, you're something about getting nobody. I remember listening to that.
If you're marketing to everybody, you're marketing to no one. Meaning, hey, it's kind of like if you're always over, this is something that I struggle with in a lot of my businesses, but if you're always over delivering, then the moment that you just deliver, you've actually under delivered. And so sometimes over delivering can be kind of tough. And I think it's sort of the same mentality with marketing and kind of the avatar or the demographic that you have set with your Airbnb, which is if you're just like, hey, yeah, I want to cater to bachelorettes and CEOs and families and single travelers and cheap friends, then you really just have like a room with furniture and there's no actual vibe or no palette or anything like that. And that was sort of like one of the big moments for me recently when I launched my Airbnb in Austin, Texas, called the Pink Pickle, which is it's a bachelorette party home. The name is an innuendo, obviously, for things that happen at bachelorette parties, but it's also very pink. There's a pickleball court. You know, a lot went into the branding to kind of say, all right, what is this? It's a very pink home for ladies, basically. It's a girls' trip home. Before the comments come for me, my partner on it, or my design partner on it, Bridget, it's Bridget Bitch on Instagram. She consulted me the whole way. It was her idea, all that good stuff. So it wasn't just like I'd say that because I don't want it to be like, yeah, I'm a guy. I know what women want. I consulted several women in my life to get to this property. But it's a property that most men will never book because they're like, yeah, this is too girly for me, right? It's too pink. I don't want a pink place. But women look at it, or bachelorettes specifically, and they're like, oh my God, I have to book this place. I don't care what it costs. Look how amazing it is. And when I went into that property, I was I wasn't marketing to everybody, but I did sort of want to have a particular, I was like, hey, I want to have like a colorful, I don't even remember I think I told Bridget, I was like, I want like colorful Beetlejuice. I want abstract, wavy things, but I want it to be all colors. And she was like, yeah, how about we do bachelorettes? And I was like, and she was like, in pink, lots of pink. And I was like, why? And she was like, well, Austin, Texas is one of the top 10 markets for bachelorette parties, and there are no bachelorette-style homes in Austin, Texas. So I think that if you did this, you could absolutely kind of own that segment. And she had just launched kind of a pseudo-bachelorette party home there, too. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And I kind of decided that day to go all in. We leaned into it. And it's kind of crazy, man. The actual comps on that property, the nearest comp looks identical to my house. It's like down the road, makes $50,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And that's what the comps say. I was going to make between 40 to 55K on that property. Well, fast forward.
After expenses?
No, just total gross revenue.
Total gross
It's going to be
revenue.
40 to 55,000.
Got you.
Fast forward to today. We're in June. I launched it in March. So March, April, May, June. So 4 months. And to date, we have grossed, I want to say 80 to 85,000 just for the year of 2024. And that's just like all of the bookings for the like the last 2 months, and then like 2 or 3 months, all of the weekends, because my weekends are set to $1,299 a night. Mm-hmm. And they book. I'll probably book every single weekend at that property. And if I hit it the way that I think I'm going to, that property will likely gross between, I'm going to go on the low end here to say 120K, but it's got the potential to do 150 to 200K a year.
Damn, dude. Okay, so let's go into this for a second. And I want to go into the sub 2 thing you have with your group too. Like, I want to go into that a little bit later because I think that's a smart move. let's run me through this acquisition of this property, and then what the furnishing costs. Because Bridget, if you guys haven't got a chance to go check out Bridget, she is probably one of my favorite designers that I've ever seen. And the reason being is because she's super intentional.
Yeah.
Not only intentional, but she has just like this wild eye, like the stuff that you see on TikTok, where like that's probably where she got really
Oh my
big.
gosh, dude.
I'm assuming she's got massive audience there, right?
Crazy. Millions of views. Like she can snap her finger and have millions of views like in a night. It's crazy.
Yeah, go check her out. But her design is just awesome. So walk me through acquisition of the property. Was that yours? Was it a sub-2 deal? And then we'll go into the numbers of what it cost to put together.
Sure, yeah. So that was a creative finance deal. And when you marry the principles of creative finance with Airbnb, I call that creative hosting. It's basically taking creative finance, hosting, smash it together, and now you've got a screaming deal from a cash flow perspective. So this property was $440,000. I took over the mortgage on it, which I think was roughly like $293,000. I took over payments. And so now that was basically sub-2. So that's deeded over to me. I'm taking over the payments. And the payments on that property are roughly $2,300 a month. The interest rate, because it's a sub-2, is 3.375%. Now, I actually bought it, not the May that just passed, but the May before. So it's been a year. So at that time, when I bought this property, interest rates were 8.5% for a DSCR loan.
Yeah.
I got this property for 3.375%, and as a result, I get a super low mortgage. There was a little bit of seller equity in there, so the purchase price was $440,000. So I'm paying interest only on that equity, I think, for another 9 months or so, 5%. I think I pay him $500 a month. So all in, my mortgage on this property is like $3,000 a month. Had I went out and bought that conventionally, and I only had to put down 10%. So out of pocket, I paid $40,000, and this property is mine. Didn't have to go to the bank. Didn't have to submit, crazy paperwork. My Chipotle receipts from 2013, my FAFSA documents. I didn't have to do any of that, right? Like it was kind of crazy, and I closed on this property like super, super fast. Didn't have to tax returns, credit reports, nothing. It's like this is what I love about creative finance. And had I gone out and basically got the DSCR loan at 8.5%. My mortgage would be not 3.375%, but it would be like, it wouldn't be $3,000 a month. It would have ended up being like $4,000 or $4,500 a month. So I'm saving literally like $1,000 to $1,500 a month in interest on that property alone because I did creative finance on it.
Yeah, I think creative finance to short, mid, freaking whatever is the most genius thing to do. I think it's such a great play, and it's cool. You're doing that in your actual host camp now, which I think is such a cool thing. Do you
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah,
Can I say one more thing about that property? Here's why creative finance and Airbnb is the most beautiful marriage of all time. So you've got the creative finance. I told you I put in $40,000 to buy this property. Well, when you start doing the cost segregation STR loophole game, which, by the way, if you want a cost segregation report, go to strcostseg.com. Ding. That's my cost seg report company. But when you marry that, it's kind of nuts because I put down $40,000, but when I run my cost seg report and get bonus depreciation, it will probably offset my taxes on that property by about $100,000 to $150,000 because I put a lot of capital investment into some of the remodeling and stuff like that. So in a way, the $40,000 that I paid for is coming back to me in offset taxes, which is super, super cool. So when you start doing the creative finance and STR loophole where you materially participate for 7 days, or you materially participate 7 different ways, it really starts unlocking insane tax benefits. And that's why I've gone all in on this strategy because I'm like, dude, you can almost get a house for free if you can offset your taxes by the amount that you put down to acquire the property.
Freaking genius. Yeah, and those loopholes are, they're amazing. And yes, I actually use your cost seg company to cost seg some of my property. So
nice.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Use his affiliate link.
Affiliate, yeah, we'll put it down below on the bottom. Down. Give me a link. We'll put it on there. So okay, I'm writing this down right now. So you got $40K. That's what you're 10% down because you got the place for $440, right? Is that what you said? $440.
Yes.
So $40K down. You're paying the dude who owned the property a percentage, $500 a month for the next, sounds like maybe a year, 16 months or something like that?
Yeah, it was 18 total.
18 months. Okay. So you're doing that. And then what did you go in and do with the property? Did you go in and like gut it? Did you what kind of work did you do in there? I'm just trying to look at your numbers, and we're going to look at why this is such a good deal here in a minute.
Let's do it. So that property, I put about $70,000 into the design. So that was like the Funkit fee, the fee that I actually paid to the interior design company, and all of the furnishings and all of the outdoor furnishings. But it was a gut remodel. So basically, I put all in out of my own pocket about $300,000. So $230 into the remodel, $70,000 to actually turn it into the Airbnb.
Got it.
We can kind of get into sort of the reasoning or some of the logic here, but basically, it was supposed to be a quick flip. That was sort of how it was pitched to me by the wholesaler that I bought it for. I got into the property. It didn't end up being a quick flip. You know, this is how it is with wholesalers. Like, they don't necessarily know all the info, all that stuff. Like, I kind of looked at it. I was like, yeah, this should work. Well, after I got into the property, I realized that if I invested like $100,000 into this property, I would basically break even on a flip. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to invest $100,000, I might as well just turn it into a dope Airbnb. And so $100,000 quickly became $200 because I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this my way. And so I kept adding things like an above ground pool, a pickleball court, like an outdoor space. I removed walls. I did a lot. I mean, this whole house will have no CapEx for the foreseeable future because basically everything is new. But we'll call it $300K. Now, with that said, if I want to, I could go to the bank, I could cash out refi, and I probably will in about a year once my loan is not called due, but once it balloons with the seller.
Right.
And then I'll cash out, get probably like $150,000 back after it's all said and done. So, you know, I have the option. The thing is, for me, I like having equity in my homes. So this house is now worth like $750,000. I owe on it probably like $400,000 right now. So I got a decent chunk of equity in it. And I think a lot of people are sort of not in a good spot in 2024 because they're trying to get into properties with as little money as possible. And I get it. Creative finance is like one of those vehicles that you can do that with. But when you have no equity, you have no exit strategies. You have no options. So for me, I'm just kind of like, look, I paid the money, but I also added $300,000 of value to that property and $300,000 to my net worth, basically. Now, with all that said, I put in $300K. I will likely profit, after all expenses, everything, about $100,000. So even with the capital infusion that I have in there, we're looking at a 33% cash-on-cash return.
So, and that's what I want people to realize, because people are probably like, why is this dude going to put $300,000 into something?
Yeah.
You're cost segging, so you're essentially getting that money back.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
You're cash flowing on the other end of that. You got a property at 3.2% interest rate, which I mean, that's pretty freaking awesome. Which we're probably never going to see again, by the way. And I might be wrong on that, but I doubt it.
Give you a while.
Maybe a while. And you have that forced appreciation in that property. And I'm in a predicament where you are too. It's like, do you refi? I mean, you're probably going to have to refi.
Maybe. Truth, if you want to know the truth,
go for it.
I don't talk about this a lot, but you know, I'm a little anti-real estate, conventional real estate thinking at the moment. I will probably cut a check to the guy for the $100,000 or whatever that I owe him, because, you know, it would be a better return to go out and cash out refi, blah, blah, get my money back. But if I just pay him the money, then my cash flow on this property will be like massive, like crazy, crazy, crazy massive. So for me, I'm kind of like, yeah, you know, I have flexibility, but if I were going to be like the most prudent investor possible, I would go cash out refi, get all of his money, make a little less cash flow, but have a much higher return. I just, at this moment, I'm like, why not? Let's stack the cash flow. I kind of want to make $1 million a year on Airbnb. That's sort of my goal.
Yeah, cash flow. And honestly, I think with the properties that you have, you could do that. And I think this is why this is such a good play, because you do have the exit. You have like 3 different exits if you wanted to exit. Which is great. But then you have the cash flow, you have the forced equity, and dude, I mean, I think you're in a good position. And honestly, you're probably going to outdo the numbers you even think you're going to do, because the place is performing so well already.
So far, dude, this is a $400,000 house for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and on weekends, I make $1,299 on a 3-night weekend, on a 3-night minimum. Meaning, every single time I get a reservation come through on Airbnb, I'm making $5,000. And on top of that, a lot of my traffic has been direct bookings. So I charge I make more than I do on Airbnb because I give the consumer a small break for booking direct. But because I'm not paying my share of Airbnb fees, I'm actually making even more. So if I would make $4,500 on Airbnb, if I go direct, I make like $5,000.
Yeah.
And then instead of the guest paying like $5,700, they're paying like $5,200. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Dude, I love that. Yeah, that's smart. And direct bookings are, honestly, I'm a big fan of direct bookings. I think that's such a big play. Are you, before I actually leave this whole thing, do you recommend, because most people probably don't have $300K laying around. They might be able to get some investors to say, hey, like this is our goal and our project and our ideas. Would you say to the average everyday investor that's getting involved in midterm or I see a midterm too much in the short-term rental space, pick up that sub 2 place for 400, get in as low as possible, but then spend some money, maybe create some money, maybe get some private money, invest into it, get somebody like Bridget to come in, or what's the company you said? Design?
Funk It Interiors.
There you go. Funk It Interiors to come in to create this opportunity, which is going to give you that leverage over time. Like, would you say, was that the route you'd say to go? It's like, if you're getting Airbnb, like really think about it and put this time and energy into it because you're going to be around in 5 years.
Yeah, I don't think you need to spend $1 million on an Airbnb. I don't think you need to do what I did at Pink Pickle with all the exterior amenities. I really think that right now you kind of have 2 levers to pull. I think you can pull lever 1, which is amenities, and then you can pull lever 2, which is extreme design. And then when you pull both of them, you get Pink Pickle and you get extraordinary results. So if I were someone that was like starting out, I might go for the cheaper home and then really deck out the design. I've got a house in Houston, Texas. I bought seller finance, 100% seller finance. I put down 10%, another $400,000 house, 3% interest rate for 30 years, no balloon. It's an amazing deal. And that house, kind of a turd, to be honest. It's not, it's kind of cute on the outside, but the inside is like, there's not a lot of redeemable qualities of it. Other than that, it's got like character and it's a little weird, but it's really not a great house. And Funk It came in, we've added wallpaper. We're doing some insane things to the design. And I think that property, instead of grossing $40,000, which is what everyone else in that area is making, I think it's got the potential to do $70,000. And I'm already cash flowing at 40. So if I can actually go from 40 to 70, I'm going to make an extra $30,000 spread in mostly profit. Like 90% of that will be profit because my expenses are already covered from that first 40,000. And it just goes to show, like, you don't need to buy this crazy bonkers house. The amenities are going to be a hot tub, a ping pong table, and like a mural. Like nothing insane.
Right.
But it's something that I think almost anyone can do. Like anyone trying to get into it, I think that's a good entry-level project. So I would say for anyone getting into this, don't feel like you have to go into the ultra luxe stuff. I do because I've scaled there. But when I was starting out, like I was super cheap and very scrappy. I would say there's less room for the super cheap and scrappy person these days. I would really focus on trying to do a little more than a base hit for your first Airbnb.
Yeah. So you're saying like basically a double. A
I would go
stand-up
for a
double.
double. Yeah, double or a triple.
Double. There you go. Stand-up double or okay, cool. So I'm just trying to make, because I know so many people are getting into the game. Would you say that people are late getting into Airbnb or short-term right now? Would you say it's like it's too late?
No, definitely not. Man, truthfully, like for a bit, like I was starting to like think like, man, is it really hard? But honestly, dude, I don't know if you know John Bianchi, but John Bianchi is like the Airbnb data guy. He's kind of completely changed my way on how I analyze properties. I made a couple of videos on how to use AirDNA on my channel. Feel free to go watch those. I walk you through my actual process for how I look at data, how I look at good data, bad data, how I know exactly how much money a property is going to make. And when I apply that with the Funk It premium, meaning how much more money I make when I design a property with Funk It services and design, which is typically like, I'm not even going to say it, but it's a lot more. When I look at it that way, it's all so clear to me. And it's like, the Zach Galifianakis meme where all the numbers like
he's like what?
Yeah, that's me. That is truly me when I'm like looking at this stuff, because I really feel like when you know how to analyze and look at data, it's almost impossible to miss if you're following like the step-by-step process that we put together.
Yeah, and you know what's cool about this is I always talk about this too. It's when you're in the game long enough that numbers are cold, they're boring. I can look at a property, and I can almost guarantee you can too, dude, where you'll walk into a property or even see a few photos of it, and you can tell instantly like if that property is going to crush or not. With your brain's already thinking about design,
Yeah.
maybe taking down a wall, opening up some stuff, making an open living room. Like you can probably instantly already tell if a property is going to crush or not. And that becomes like an intuition that people get over time, just being in the space for so long. And the cool thing about you and myself as well is that we have students where we could see like the results of what they actually look like and what they make. So it's almost like you get this superpower to like essentially look at a property, and it could be, you just talked about this a second ago, the Houston place, it's funky. Most investors, 99% of investors are going to be like, screw that place, I don't want anything to do with it, or that's going to be a flip and I'm done.
It was on the market for 60 days. Seller finance, 100% seller finance. Like, people just didn't want the house. And I saw it, and I was like, why is it still available? And the lady's like, I don't know. No one wants it. And I was like, I'll make the offer right now. And I did. It's crazy.
I know. And that's the cool thing is that in the short-term space, is you can have those funky houses that are even on busy roads and like that most people aren't going to want, but you're able to turn it into something that has substance to it, where like it's actually going to work. And I think,
Yeah.
again, going back to that muscle that's being used, I feel like as you continue to get in this space and you're around community that shows you what they're doing, you start to get that muscle, you adapt that muscle where you can see like, cool, I know this is going to work. It's a funky layout. The living room's actually in the back. The front of the house is the bedrooms, which is kind of weird and whatever, yada, yada, yada.
This house for sure.
And it'll still work because it's supposed to feel like that. People are supposed to walk into a bedroom and be like, what the hell am I doing here? And then they go back and they see the actual presence of it. So I think that's what's really cool about, you know, the STR game, where you are going to be in a position where you can have the funky house and it's going to make sense and it's going to work, where 99% of the other investors are going to be like, screw this, I don't want anything to do with it. Even at seller financing, I mean, dude, that's crazy. I mean, you picked it up.
It wasn't even a bad, I mean, dude, that's the thing is like, people really overcomplicate this stuff. They're like, they got analysis paralysis and they're like, I don't know, is it a good deal? And I'm like, I remember calling on this house. I was driving my truck and I was driving past. There was a for sale sign in front of the property. Above it, there's a red flag that said owner financing. And I was like, like I didn't want to. I've got this instinct or this like thing about me. When I see a for sale sign or a for rent sign, I always call. Like I always call. Like I was walking in my neighborhood, I was like, hey, are you renting your property? And they're like, yeah, what's going on? I'm like, hey, will you seller finance it to me? And he was like, no. And I was like, all right, well, I was like, I know you're trying to rent it. Will you rent it to me and I'll co-host for you? And he was like, maybe. Check in with me when I'm back out of town. And I was like, all right, sounds good. So I always do that. So I'm passing by this house. Same thing. I'm like, yeah, I had to get home. I'm sure I had to do something I'm sure I had to take the kids somewhere, whatever. And I was just like, man, I can't not call. And I call and I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, yeah, we want 10% down, 5% interest. And I was like, when can I take a look? We toured it that day. I made an offer the next day, I think. And when I made the offer, I was like, all right, I'll give you 0% interest at this price or 3% at this price. And he called me, and he was the husband to the realtor, and he's like, what are you trying to do, man? And I'm like, well, look, if you give me this at 0%, I'm willing to pay you more than the listed price because I'll cash flow at this amount. But if you don't, I need to have a 3% because it's the only way that I can cash flow. And so I was able to make a deal work that would cash flow. That's the beauty of creative.
Right.
And, you know, it's a funky house. That's kind of why nobody wanted it. But that's also why we call ourselves Funk It, right? Like, we kind of embraced all that. And I just saw an opportunity. Like, that's the biggest lesson I would tell anybody is when you see the opportunity, like the best opportunities in life, the best opportunities in real estate, they're gone in like a minute. So if you're not that person that's going to call in the first minute, then you'll never get that golden dream deal. Not really. Not in my opinion anyway.
Yeah. I totally agree to that. And that's super awesome. I think that muscle that you have with making those calls and getting uncomfortable, like you're trying to get a deal. Like eventually at the end of the day, you're trying to get something. And you need to solve a problem for those people, which obviously they wanted to get rid of the house. They couldn't, and they're able to make a deal. And I think that negotiation part is a skill that comes with learning and being around community and talking about, like, what do I do in this position? And luckily you're freaking on bigger pockets. People talk about this crap all the time. So you're just like, I got this. I can do it. Which
yeah, it's borderline toxic, man. I'm always looking at real estate. I'm in Copenhagen. I was literally like trying to figure out the Copenhagen equivalent to like Zillow, and I'm over here like Copenhagen real estate for sale. And I'm just like, every time I'm in a new city, I just have to know what do things cost? Can I make money here? Can I buy this property? Well, can I make it to where other people pay for it and I get to live in it for free anytime that I want? And that's kind of what I love about this game is like you get these dream properties that other people pay for. And then whenever you want, you can use it.
You know what's cool? Like I heard Cody Sanchez talk about this. She's like, you know, a lot of these things
that?
like,
is she like a really popular like content creator?
Super popular content creator. Talked about how certain things are gateway drugs. And what I mean by that, it's like if you get into business, you start to like look at other things. You're analyzing already. You're looking at, for those of you who don't know, Rob's in Copenhagen right now, chilling out. Andy's on this call, which I didn't even think you were going to show up today, and you did. But the point that I'm trying to share right now is that
people.
You got to go to Copenhagen and you got to just show up to places. And Rob's doing that. But the second thing that I'm trying to say is that Cody had mentioned like a gateway drug. So I think Airbnb and short-term rentals are a great way to get yourself into business without even really knowing it. And eventually over time, and Rob, you probably walk into a freaking ice cream shop and you're like, they're not doing this right. They're not doing this right. This is not done right. And then you start to like analyze that place and how to make it better. And like, you're actually an entrepreneur business owner now, if you have that same mindset. And it came from freaking short-term. Like you never probably thought you were going to get to this point where you can look at stuff, start analyzing it and looking at it. So I think it's such a cool space to be in because it does give you that mindset. Even if you don't have it, you'll start to adapt it. Would you agree to that?
It's a real business, man. It's a real business. And I would not even, I don't know, man. I don't even say I'm entrepreneur. I've always, like, it's kind of hard to say that I've always been entrepreneurial because, like, my whole MO in life was always to just make more money because I was just always broke. And I was always like, how can I make more money? So I always felt like I was like I had side hustles, right? And so, like, it was just like, that was my thing for so long that when I got into the short-term rental space, I was kind of like, oh, I figured it out. Like, this is how you make money. And then from being in short-term rentals came creating a YouTube channel that talked about short-term rentals. And then from that, I've had, like, 5 companies or 5 offshoots of all of that. So for me, like short-term rentals was the gateway drug into business. And now all I really want is to build businesses around the short-term rental space. So that's kind of where I see myself going. Like, I don't know if I'm going to go and start some crazy tech thing, but I will do a lot of things in the short-term rental space that aren't just owning them.
Yeah. And I think that's a smart way to look at it, which is obviously leads to the point where it is that gateway drug where, you know, you weren't entrepreneurial, but I think you are. I think you're an entrepreneur. You have multiple different businesses, which is more than most people. And you've been doing this for a long time. And most businesses, I mean, the life of a traditional business is 3 years, right? Like most people have a business and they're gone within 3 to 5 years. You've been operating now since 2017 to now. What is that, 7 years?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're already like, and there's a percentage, I wish I had it. It's like most businesses within the first decade, like, is like 79 or 82% of them are gone.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're like,
I think it's even in the first couple of years too.
Yeah, yeah. Especially in real estate because it's such a hard play to do. But again, I think that, you know, you've been able to kind of take these things and get on YouTube. And I think you came in at the right time too, dude. Like,
oh, definitely.
You timed the market so perfect when it came to the short-term space. I remember watching you and there was only like a couple other people. This dude named Richard Fertig. You know who that dude is?
I don't know him. I've only ever seen like a couple of videos, but I hear he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he
STR University.
STR right? University. So
that
was one of the guys that I actually took his like mentorship like in 2017, started to learn a little bit more things. Super intelligent guy.
In fact,
yeah, dude, I did. I learned a lot from him. In fact, we're still in contact. He was supposed to be at my event this year talking about some stuff, but he's like, that dude's building hotels now. He's like in a totally different thing, but at that time,
it's the move. That's what all of us short-term rental investors, we go to the dark side eventually and buy motels and hotels.
Because you get regulated out. And that's exactly what he said to me in 2017. He's like, this is all going to be regulated. Watch, it's going to happen. It's not going to be here. Like, I'm going to start thinking about hotels. And here we are today where it's like, you got to go into boutique hotels and stuff like that, which I think is the next place. So I have a question for you right now. Because again, I did think you timed things right. Where do you think the sharing economy is going? I had a discussion with somebody the other day and they're like, the sharing economy is pretty new. And I'm sitting there and I was like, hang on a second, take a deep breath. And the guy I was talking to, he actually looked like a caveman. He does look like a caveman. My friend Aaron, sorry, buddy. He actually really looks like a caveman. I'm not kidding. And I was like, dude, you look like a caveman, and secondly, like cavemen have been
Hey, does he
having.
look like a caveman?
He does.
Oh,
That's his
okay,
name in
okay.
my phone right now. I should pull up. It's caveman. Actually, we call him caveman for years. He actually does. He's got long hair. He kind of looks like Jason Momoa a little bit because he just
Okay.
kind of has that
Oh,
kind of
so
caveman.
he's a cute caveman.
He's the cutest caveman I've ever seen in my life. I can't.
Nice,
That's why I
nice.
couldn't call him a caveman. But he he was basically. I was basically like, dude, we've been in the sharing economy since like when you were around back in the caveman days. I don't know how you've, because people would wander along when they were on these trips somewhere. They'd bring people in if they felt comfortable with them to stay in their little caves for a little while they're on adventures to the next place. So if you think about it, like the sharing economy has actually been around forever. Cool, come into my cave, have some food, and then you can leave tomorrow or carry on wherever you're going to go. Like that sharing economy has been around forever. And we've kind of watched it evolve into the 21st century. That would be such a good YouTube intro, by the way. If you're just like, cavemen have been into this, like that's the video. I'm just thinking of this right now. Like,
I like it.
such
We'll
a
make
good
that intro for this video.
I know, a guy just like, oh, like hitting stuff. But where I'm trying to go with this is that I feel like the sharing industry or the sharing economy has been around for hundreds of thousands of millions of years, but now it's evolved into this 21st century kind of new outlook on things. Where do you see like the sharing economy going? Because we have cars now, right? We share cars, we share homes. I mean, think about this you were born in the 80s or 90s?
Hey, I'm an '80s baby.
You're
All
an
my
80s baby.
friends, all my family, they bust my chops a bit because they're like, "You're not an '80s baby." I'm like, "Dude, I was born at the end of
89.
December in 1989." They're like, They're like, you weren't alive in the '80s." I was like, "Yes, I was for 10 days." So
10 days? Hey,
technically, I am an '80s baby.
So if you were to tell somebody in the 80s and 90s even, like, you're going to let some random ass person stay in your home, like everybody back then would have been like, you're freaking stupid. I would never allow that to happen. So, but again, going back to my caveman story. Sorry, Aaron. That's exactly what we've been doing for years. So now we're in this phase where we're sharing cars. Turo is allowed. You can go on Turo, you can go on Airbnb, you can go on Vrbo, whatever, all that stuff. Do you see any other movement with this economy at all? The sharing economy?
Yeah, I think we're at the beginning of it, man. I think people, the idea of owning something or arbitraging something in that, like you own something and you let someone else use it the other 98% of the time that you're not using it, but you get it for free. That's a really cool feeling that I don't think will ever go away. I think everyone will always want to own something for free. And, as far as Airbnb, you mentioned that you think it's in the 7th, 8th inning. I don't think so. I really think that we're at the beginning. Now, I think we're at the 7th and 8th inning of insane, unstoppable returns. Like,
Yeah.
we've already seen that. When I
Right.
started, anyone could throw a dart anywhere in the U.S. and make a 30 to 40% cash-on-cash return because interest rates were 2.75%, 3%, 3.5%. That's not around anymore. Now we're at the 6 to 8 mark, right? And what I think is going to happen in the short-term rental space is I think we've already seen it equalize. Now I think getting a 10 to 20% is really the goal here. I used to say 20 was that golden metric. I think
Yeah.
with interest rates today, we're looking at like 15 to 20 is like if you're really great, but 10 to 15 is what people should be expecting right now.
Right.
If you're buying a long-term rental, you used to want a 6 to 10% on a long-term rental. That's not happening now. And
No
so
way.
I think that there will always be long-term rental investors that are doing that, but I think that will be closer to a break-even game than it's ever been. And I think the only place to make cash flow and actually make a decent return will be Airbnb. And so that's why we see so many people coming into this. And so instead of us making these 30 to 40% returns, the new normal on short-term rentals will be 10 to 15 for a very, very long time. That's where I see it going. And because of that, I think a lot of people are going to stop investing because that's a relatively quote-unquote boring return from what it used to be, just a few years ago.
Yeah, I 110% agree with that. And the other thing I think, and this is probably counterintuitive to what we're talking about right now, but I think AI is actually going to help the average everyday person make more money. Do you agree to that or no? And I'm going to kind of explain to you why I think this is.
Okay.
Let me break this down for a second.
I'm bullish on AI. I think a lot of people do. I've heard the arguments that they're going to replace most jobs, but I think that the people will just. It's just like the internet. The internet didn't get rid of jobs; it created a lot. I think AI will eventually create more jobs once we kind of know what we're dealing with.
Dude, this is how I think about AI and like the sharing economy and all this stuff. Imagine like this is where I want everybody to go right now with this, because this is happening right now. There's driverless cars in San Francisco that are driving around. They've been doing this for like 2 years now. Tesla's obviously put this together for years, driving, they have the driverless, or not driverless, but the driver assistance getting around. imagine you're in a world where you go to work, like you pull into your job and you hit your Tesla and all of a sudden it's like bing and it goes out and starts picking people up and dropping them off places, earning you money while you're gone. Like I think that that's where the future is going to go when it comes to like we're talking about ride sharing and shit like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Okay, I like
That
that.
eventually we're going to get to a point where Rob's going to show up at his office and his Tesla or his Ford Raptor that eventually decides to drive itself starts to go pick up
That would be
people,
cool.
take them to places, and then by the time Rob's done with his day, he's going to actually have that income that his car made from him driving, plus or from it driving, plus he's going to whatever it is that he's doing with AI and all that other stuff. So I think that we're in this space where I think it's going to be a lot easier to make money. And I also read a statistic. It was like in the next decade, more people, like 50, not 50%, it was like 42% of people are going to have their own businesses rather than working for other people.
Really?
And it's in the next decade. Yeah.
What is
And I'll
that
find-
stat? Do you know what the stat is now? Like how many people own their business?
I don't. It didn't show the stat. It was Business Insider talked about this. They were
Okay.
talking about how I wish I had that pulled up right now. Where they talked about how in the next decade, how there's going to be so many more people that are working for themselves rather than working for other people. And we saw this happen with the Great Resignation with COVID, right? Everybody was like, "Screw this! I'm not working here anymore," and they kind of started their own thing. That's what happened to me. Like I left my W-2 job during that time, so I'm like, I should just be doing something on my own. So I think more people are adapting that, especially the younger people are coming in saying like, I can learn copywriting, I can learn video, I can learn all these things that I think are
Hey,
helpful.
you doing anything with email right now? That's
Like
like, that's no, I'm just kidding. That's the plague of my Instagram DMs right now. 1,000 18-year-olds that are like, hey, do you want to add $10,000 in revenue? Like, I'll write you emails. And I'm just like, dude, sorry. Yeah, I'm triggered by you talking about copywriters. I'm a copywriter,
Well, that's
by
where
the way, by trade.
that's where you could tell where somebody's using copywriting when they're using AI for copywriting because it says unveil and it says like all the freaking words that copy that Chat GPT is doing. But I don't think you're ever going to be able to get rid of that smart, intuitive person that's able to give you like a good punchy headline. Like AI can't do that. You know what I mean? They don't. It doesn't have that capability yet. You think so?
Not yet. Man, I think it's pretty compelling, dude. You know that the reel that I did with Cody for promoting Hostcon?
That was so good.
That started out on ChatGPT. I was like, I had the idea. I was like, I want to do a Nathan For You style video with Cody Sanchez where I somehow con her into speaking at Hostcon. Can you write up an idea? And it kind of spit out that. I mean, I worked with it for 2 hours, right? So I had to like really actually put a lot of brain power into it. And arguably I could have done it without ChatGPT. But that's just like with where we are now. I do think in like a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, it becomes exponential. And we will get to this point where ChatGPT is actually like holding its own with a human copywriter. So I think the only way to get ahead will be to be the puppet master of AI. And I think most people are like anti-AI when they should just be very pro being the puppet master of AI because those are the people that are going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I totally agree. I forget who was talking about AI like not being. Maybe it was Cody. I think she said something about because she's got really good emails that she sends out. I don't know who her copywriter is. I wish I had.
I think she still writes her emails if I'm not mistaken.
But I remember the headline or the subject was, "I like guys with wood," and I was like. Freaking genius. I bet her click rate was like massive. And it ended up being a dude that was a woodworker that was making $1 million a year by woodworking. And he like loved his job and stuff like that. But like, how is AI going to be able to think that smart and to be able to have like a clickbait type title? Like, I don't think AI is going to be able to do that. Like, I love guys with wood. That was her freaking, her subject.
That's true. Yeah. I mean,
it's just creative.
I think we're a little away. Yeah. We're probably far from that. From punchy headlines, but overall content, like truthfully, just out of curiosity, I'm in Copenhagen. We've already said this several times. Hey guys, did y'all know I'm in Copenhagen? Humble brag. I'm gonna do a video on how to buy real estate or like what it's like to be a real estate investor in Copenhagen, and I'm changing my style, my format. I want to do like a narration type video, and I sat in ChatGPT. I was like, write me an intro for a YouTube video in the style of YouTuber Rob Built in the context of a real estate investor who wants to buy, like real estate in Copenhagen, what it's like. And it banged out like in seconds. It banged out like an intro that I was like, this is good. I might use it. I mean, I have to punch it up and still make it like for real good, but like it's a really, really good start. And I think that's kind of like I would say AI will be used best to enhance one's abilities versus replace their abilities.
Yeah.
That's where we're at right now. I think in a couple years it'll be replacing abilities. So you better be pretty damn good at the craft that you are doing right now, or else you will get replaced.
I agree. I think AI gives you, when it comes to like ChatGPT, gives you the best framework. And I saw this on your Instagram too, and I thought it was pretty cool because you just basically went into AI and was like, and were like, you said, I want to have a fire pit that looks cool with the back. Remember that post you did maybe a couple weeks ago?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And he had a picture of like this super badass backyard, and it was just like
Can we B-roll it? We'll B-roll it right here.
We'll B-roll this photo in here actually when we're talking about this. So you had the before idea, and then you had the after photo, right? Did you have the after, or was it just the before? And
I didn't have it before. I just had a prompt. I said, "Hey, I have a little nook in my backyard. I want to make it feel cozy, and I want Adirondack chairs around a fire pit with the Howdy neon sign in the back." And it kind of spit out a thing. I was like, "All right, I need it cozier, and I need it darker, and I need it to be like crushed granite." And then I did that like 3 or 4 times, and then it just would spit out another thing. I was like, "All right, kind of like that, but a little bit more." Like rustic. And then I spit out something else until finally it actually created the exact space in that backyard based on what was in my mind. And for free on Chat. Well, actually it was ChatGPT Pro, but you get the idea. I mean, it was mind blowing how good it was.
And then you took that concept and then you actually created something out of that, right? Or
that's basically the photo that I'm showing like my contractor to be like, hey, I need it to look exactly like this.
That's the Houston house?
Yes. Actually, if you're cool with it, I'll share my screen, and maybe we won't even have to B-roll this. All right, check this out.
B-roll it up.
B-roll it up. Okay, so I said, can you generate a photo for me? Of course. Yep. Could you please provide some details? I'd like it to be a dope fire pit setup with 5 Adirondack chairs around the fire pit with a nice line fence behind the chairs. Here's the image. Can you change it to an unstained pine fence? Because that matters. And then I said, it didn't really do it. I said, can you add string lights and make the setup a little bit more vibey? This is for a cool Airbnb. And then it said, okay, I've done all that. I said, can you make the floor gravel? And then it did that. I said, this is getting close. Can you add a neon sign that says howdy to boost the vibes? And then it said, okay, I've done all that. And I said, can you remove the plants from the photo and make the space a little cozier? And then it gave me this, which is exactly kind of what it's going to look like. I mean, I'm not going to have that shelf in the back, but I was just like, jaw dropped, honestly. I mean, this is like as good as it gets. I mean, I could have hired someone on Fiverr for $65 to do this, and that person will probably get replaced. But like, look at this, man. Like,
that looks
someone on Fiverr would have spent 2 hours making this, and I got it for free, or for $20 a month, I guess.
$20 a month. Dude, that looks freaking awesome. For those of you that are watching this right now, it looks freaking cool. Like, and you're not going to do you're going to have the same kind of wood on the side, the fence going up that high.
Yeah,
that's
so
like a tall fence.
basically this part is already done. So now this is the side of the house, so it won't have this, but we will have the string lights, but it'll pretty much look like this. I actually wasn't planning on doing these rocks right here, but after I saw it, I was like, well,
it looks kind of clean.
It's pretty cool. So yeah,
it's a good trip hazard. Yeah, absolutely. That's the perfect trip hazard for your Airbnb right there. If you want to
hey, you always want to be. You always got to fear being sued a little bit as an Airbnb host, or else you're not doing it right.
Yeah, you gotta do that. All right, Rob, we're getting to the top of the hour right now. I feel like I'm a
top of the hour to you.
Top of the hour to you, buddy.
Oh, top of the hour to you.
Hello. Are you freaking? Are you adapting Copenhagen? Is that your Copenhagen? Like, let me hear that Copenhagen voice.
I'm not gonna get canceled by the Danish people. They're a great people, and I love them.
All right, fine. We're not gonna get canceled. Okay, my last question for you, because this is something that I think about. And I actually didn't know people hated Airbnb owners up until like 6 months ago, when I got comments that were just like,
"Are you not on TikTok?"
I'm not on TikTok. I'm on YouTube and on Instagram. I had one video where I talked about driving by a Dave & Buster's and like getting this property and this stuff and like calling these owners, and that video went viral, and I had people just like, this guy's taking property from families and yada yada and all these things. Where do you see this at? Because I feel like I understand I'm going to give you my perspective. I understand we have a housing shortage. I get it. Like there's a housing shortage, but I'm also like a American, where it's like, if you buy a piece of something, even though I don't necessarily own it, the bank owns it, like I should be able to do whatever I want with it. And people are going to hate me for saying that, but like, I truthfully feel that. And also I think, and this is my own perspective, my own thoughts on this, is that when it comes to housing like that, the government actually closed a lot of us off, especially the builders, from being able to get incentives that they can get to build. So it's like you'll see certain cities, like I'm in California, there's not enough housing here. Like I freaking know that. I understand that. I get it. I totally understand. But you said this a minute ago or a while ago, and I said this too, that most investors now are buying property. They can't cash flow as long-term rentals because the rentals are too high. Do you believe, what's your thought process on this? And don't worry about getting canceled. It's fine. If I'm going to get canceled, you are.
Oh, it's my goal to get canceled. Yeah, no, don't worry. Bring it on. I hate housing crisis people.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No. Okay, well, first of all, I think it's a brilliant lobby by the hotel lobbyists, because like, let's just break it down. I wanted to make sure, so I looked it up while you were saying this. I hate saying bad stats. There are 1.3 million short-term rentals in America. How many houses do you think are in America?
Probably 80 million.
144 million.
Damn it.
So short-term rentals make up less than 1% of housing in America. Now, for the flip side of this, I believe long-term rentals are significantly more than that. I want to say they make up, 44 million. So Airbnbs make up 2% of, roughly, 2% of all rentals in America. Yeah. So the fact that people are so laser focused on Airbnb leads me to believe that A, they've been brainwashed by TikTok and the hotel lobby in media, and B, it's just like such a small percentage. And I get it. Like, I'm with you. I'm like, hey, housing crisis, I get it. But why on earth am I the one that gets the hate on TikTok versus literally any of the people that own hotels that could actually make a difference on housing? That's what I don't get. Like, no one is over here on the Hilton Instagram account saying like, you're taking your corporate greed, you're taking up valuable housing. They're talking to the guy that has like started out just like them, very broke, and worked my way up and actually built like a pretty decent portfolio. And even then, I mean, this is not going to be relatable to these people, but like, I have 40 doors, right? I have 40 rental properties. That's really not that much compared to actual institutional investors. There is a lot of hate for like BlackRock or Blackstone, whoever it's called, whatever. There's a lot of hate for those guys. Yeah. But the target is always like the actual mom and pop Airbnb host. And it really does blow my mind. And I feel like it doesn't make sense. It makes up less than 1% of housing.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's really the problem.
Check this stat out, dude. And this is where the Airbnb haters should really get into this. Institutional investors control 40% of the U.S. single-family home rental homes. They will control more than 49% by 2030. Yeah. So that means that Blackstone, BlackRock, all these freaking large, huge institutional investing companies, they actually own more than the traditional person, more than the average everyday American. So, yeah. And in fact, I was just reading another statistic that was like 1 in like 22 homes was bought in 2023 was was somebody on Wall Street. It was a institutional fund buying property, which is freaking, which is crazy.
It's nuts, dude. The actual answer is, dude, I lived in LA for 5 years. Okay. I loved California for my time there, but California makes it way too damn hard to build a house in California. And if California actually made it easy to develop and they actually incentivized development and building of houses, we wouldn't be in this problem. It's not the short-term rental investor that's the problem. It's California. It's like New York is the same way. San Francisco is the same way. Yeah. They make it impossible to build. And what happens as a result is there's not enough housing. If the United States actually wanted to solve this, they would, and to be fair, the tax code is written for real estate investors, big time. So the tax code already has the back of investors, but the actual building department of the United States, whoever controls that, is not making development any easier. They make it very hard, and you have to be almost an institutional developer to actually make a difference. Like, I couldn't just go and develop 20 houses right now if I wanted to. I'd have to have so much money to go out and do that. So it's pretty frustrating that all the hate is always centered around an Airbnb host. I'm like, sorry, dude, that's really not the problem. And also, while we're on the subject, I'm also like, first of all, when someone's like, why don't you build affordable housing? I'm like, why don't you? How many have you done? And the answer is always 0. Okay, that's 1. And then 2, I'm like, if I handed literally any of those haters the keys to one of my houses, I was like, all right, listen, here you go. Go turn this into an Airbnb. How many of them do you think would be like, screw you, you pig? They'd all be like, oh my God, thank you. and they would do it. So I'm just like, it's all hypocrisy to me. I hate it. It's annoying.
I agree. Yeah, I think there's multiple different problems there, but yeah, Airbnb owners are pinned to be the bad, investors in this space, and it's a weird.
We're the nicest ones, man. We're the nicest ones.
It's a weird place to be, dude. Like in reality, like I get it, but then there's also this other side of like, again, when it goes back to like, we buy something, like we should be able to do what we want with it. It doesn't matter. But I understand that other context too, which is, it's hard to explain that to somebody over the internet, which I don't do anymore. Do you do that? Do you comment back on people?
No. I actually just read comments now, like on other, like, dude, my Instagram algorithm is so good. It's stuff that definitely is always like, someone's going to be mad at this. And all I do is I just read comments on other people's reels. And that's my entertainment on Instagram. No, I don't comment back anymore.
What was the worst
I never
comment
did.
you ever got?
Oh, I don't know. I get several comments about my hair every day.
Yeah. That's it?
I mean, honestly, dude, if you want to, anyone listening to this, if you want a super entertaining read, go to my Instagram. I had a reel that went viral about 6 months ago. I think it's got 28 million views now. And it was about how one of my Airbnb guests lit a fire under my $45,000 deck. And I was just like, POV, your Airbnb guest almost lit your $45,000 deck on fire. And all the comments are the people that we're talking about. They're all like, good. Yeah, you deserve it, you pig, you slug, you blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, dude, they were all like, oh, yeah, now you know how it feels to not have the things you like. They should have burned the whole house down. And I'm like, what? I'm like, so in their mind, it's like, hey, if we can't give this house to someone who needs it, we should burn it down so that they definitely never have the opportunity to have this house. It's kind of crazy, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I get fired up talking about it. I don't really care all that much. It is entertaining, but it is like, no, I'm not going to sit there and comment, because then I actually will get mad. If I just read it, I'm just kind of like, oh, that's funny. That's funny that people are this dumb.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy because like, and this is the thing, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I feel like there's ways to make money in this space. And if people just like were to get on the other end of that other side, to like get past that negative mindset, if you're thinking about negative stuff, you're going to get negative back. It's just, it's just a cycle of how things go. But those same exact people, if they put that energy into like producing something like an Airbnb or creating a different opportunity, like there's just so much for people to learn. It's frustrating to me sometimes, man, when I'm just like, gosh, like I wish you could understand this, but I guess everybody's got to understand on their own time. And I've learned this over the years that you can't force somebody to start to think different. Like I have a few brothers, and they're probably listening to this, so sorry guys. Airheads, like I love them to death, but they're like, I would never pay you to. I remember when I first started my coaching business, dude. My brother was like, somebody's paying you $997 to be with you for 3 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever. My first thing, he's like, I would never even give you $1. Like his mindset was like, why would somebody listen to you? Like you don't know what you're doing, kind of thing. But I'm just like, dude, like you're gonna be working at freaking. He works at Rayleigh's to like Nob Hill down in Southern California. First job he's ever had since he was 16. He's 50. I'm like, dude, like you're not gonna be able to retire when you want. Like there's other things that you want to do, but he just doesn't get it. And some people just don't get it, and it's frustrating. But I learned, dude, I had to turn this off. Like I had to learn how to just be like, my job is not to make you see those things. And maybe that's for you too. Like maybe that's a thought process that you have with the coach. Like you obviously are a coach. You had to learn how to like separate yourself from that thoughts. Did you have to do that or no?
Man, okay, so, I was in advertising. I talked about this. Like, in advertising, literally, the whole premise is, like, you're pitching ideas to your creative director, and your creative director is like, yeah, this one's pretty good. But these other 9, yeah, come back with 9 more. And you're like, but I spent days coming up with these 9, and I don't have any more. These are good. And, like, yeah, it doesn't really fit. And you kind of, like, lived in this industry where you were constantly told that your ideas suck. And it's fine. Like, I just developed thick skin. That is just the way it is. Like less than 1% of your ideas ever make it to light. And for that reason, you should never get too attached to the things that you come up with, and you develop a very thick skin. So thankfully, I had 10 years of that before I started a YouTube channel, to where when people are like, this sucks, I'm like, you're not as mean as my creative director, so that doesn't hurt. No, I'm just kidding. No. I had such a thick skin walking into this that, like, honestly, nothing really gets to me, but like that one reel where I'm just, that reel I'm talking about has like thousands of comments, and like, it's funny to read them, but it's also like very sad in the sense that I'm like, how can these people The thing is, like, I'm actually very nice. I consider myself a very nice person. Yeah. So I'm always like, they don't even know. Like, we're probably philosophically pretty aligned on the things they believe, which is always very funny to me. And I'm always like, it's so sad that they're probably, it's like, I want to think they're nice people, but they're so mean that I'm like, they can't be bad. They have to be a bad person. I'm like, I can't believe there's this many bad people. I don't know. I've talked to you about this before. It's always very weird to me when people aren't nice. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm just very naive, though.
I think you are naive.
Because everyone in this industry is nice. Like, have you come across any,
Everybody's
weirdos?
super freaking nice. And I've come across a few weirdos. There's a guy that just popped out of my trunk yesterday, but I don't want to talk about that. But
you sent me. Yeah, you told me about that.
But everybody is freaking nice, including like people like you who are like are successful and doing. They want to help people.
That's what I mean. Like you, Kai Andrew, Tony Robinson, Mike Elefante. Like y'all are all my competitors. But we're all like very good buds. Like we all text, we all FaceTime. We're like, hey, how you doing over here? How do you do this? And we give each other strategies that we should be holding to the chest, but we don't care. We're cool. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's a very nice collaborative industry.
I totally agree with that. But yeah, dude, Rob, you've said it all today, and you've said it all from Copenhagen, and you don't want to use the accent that they have there because you don't want to offend anybody, which I totally understand. And you don't look like a caveman, which is cool, because if you look like a caveman, I probably wouldn't have you on here.
That's actually very nice.
And you do have cool hair, so despite what everybody says about your hair, it's pretty freaking cool. All right, so
I'm gonna start sending you comments. I get them every day on my ads. Everyone's like, "You lost me at the haircut," and it's like, funny how you can pay for all these Airbnbs, but you can't pay for a haircut. There's some pretty good ones. It's funny.
I should have you back, and we just go through our comments. The last comment that I had that really got me was somebody was like, I don't know. They said I need to get a face transplant or something like that, and I was like, I would really love to have Brad Pitt's face, so you're probably right. So I'll take that.
Someone commented on like 5 of my posts and was like, Rob's on Ozempic and he's like a scummy investor. And I'm like, this guy doesn't even know that he's like low key complimenting me. I was like, thank you so much. That's the nicest troll I've ever had.
And the funny thing is, Rob was eating a cheeseburger while he was reading that. So there it is.
I can stop whenever I want.
I can stop. Rob, it's awesome, man. I always love seeing you. I love talking to you. You're a genuine person. You guys go check out Rob. Rob, where can people find you at?
You can find me over on the Rob Built YouTube channel pretty much every Monday. I don't think I've missed in a very, very long time. And if it's not Monday, it's usually a Tuesday. But that's, go find me on there. Instagram. And then you can find me in person if you're like, hey, I want to meet you. And I want to see you speak and tell funny jokes. Come to Hostcon, my short-term rental conference, the #1 short-term rental conference in Houston, Texas. Head on over to hostcon.com to get $500 off your tickets. The promo code is pasted to the top of the website. You can't miss it. Thanks for having me on, man. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video as well.
Yeah, and leave some comments about Rob's hair and how you want him to get Brad Pitt's face. So just make sure to do that,
Thank
guys.
you. Please do.
And if you do hate Airbnbs, just go ahead and leave that in the comments.
Also, let us know. We could use the engagement. It actually helps us go more viral.
Yep, I appreciate that. So yeah, Rob, you're the best, dude.
Cool. And I'll see you when you move to Houston, right? You still thinking about it?
Austin, but maybe Houston.
Well, maybe Houston. Houston. We think of the things we could do.
Imagine. Thanks, my friend.